I went for business management with a minor in marketing, and I got approached from one of my college teachers about joining the sales team and possibly doing an internship. And I decided that I did not want to do that and started thinking more closely about what I did want to do after graduating and decided I wanted to do cosmetology. And I was really worried that my family was going to think that I was crazy, but they didn't. I kind of feel they felt like it was a natural move for me. So after graduation, I went to the Aveda Institute in Atlanta. I definitely put my degree at use up there. Definitely kind of started marketing. I was already in cosmetology school. And I got nominated for a student award with Behind the Chair for their first year open. And that was really exciting. I feel like the affirmation that I needed that I was kind of headed in the right direction. And when I was at that show, I actually met a friend, Lacey, and she was already independent. So that's when I first heard about going independent. And she was nominated for an award. And I was just looking at her life and how successful she was. And it was something other than a traditional salon setting, like something that I never heard of before. So it showed me kind of a different direction. And I went and checked out her spot up in Atlanta. And it was just, I mean, everyone had their own room. It was just really the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I'd never seen something like that before. But we didn't have anything like it in Savannah just yet whenever I first moved down. So I was in a traditional salon setting when I first started out, which was great. Well, until it wasn't, until I decided to do something different.
What made you feel like you were ready to take the leap to go independent?
I think just thinking about it for so long and knowing that it was something that I always wanted. And then once the opportunity arose, we Heather Safford opened up Sola in Savannah, and I actually got a flyer at my mom's house. She immediately called me and was like, "This is what you've always wanted to do. We actually got a flyer in the salon." And I remember at the time people being like, "Who would want to do that?" And everyone kind of turned and looked at me. Katie would want to do that. So it was definitely the best fit for me. Um, and with how easy I feel like Sola made it, it was just kind of like a no-brainer. Um, so it was a really smooth transition, actually, kind of switching over.
Well, I'm excited to hear all about how you did it. But I bet going independent can be scary. And I feel like I just want to cut straight to the chase. This was my most burning question for you when thinking about going independent, but what was your biggest fear going out on your own?
So with that business background and everything, I think my biggest fear was not doing everything correctly. I was really worried. I know this seems really silly, but I was really worried about being audited as like a business owner, and really worried that I was gonna have made like a mistake my first year open and just completely like ruin my chances right out the gate at starting a business. So I really was really nervous and really attention to detail about everything that I needed, that I had all the licenses in place. I made sure that I had a separate business bank account. If you choose to do your own accounting or if you choose to get an accountant, what software to use, if you're doing like online booking and sending out, reminders and things like that. And making sure that you have a place for your reports. That's all your business reports, and keeping track of all of your expenses so that you're organized at the end of the year. Or if you're doing quarterly taxes or annual taxes, making sure you're organized.
I'm sure a lot of people are nodding their heads right now. That is very scary to think about licenses and reporting, and everyone else too. I'd love to hear what your biggest fear was, or what's on your mind right now when thinking about going into independent. Feel free to send it in the chat box. But before we get into all the deets of how you overcame that fear, just want to do a quick overview of what we'll be covering tonight. So when you guys registered for this event, these were the top 5 topics that were most asked about in the registration form. So we'll talk about how Katie got her licenses and reporting together, how she created her branding, how she's grown her clientele, how she's kept that clientele, and how she does and saves money on payment processing. How does that sound?
Amazing to me.
Okay. All right, well, let's get into licenses and reporting. And I know this is different in every state. And if anyone wants to share how this worked in their state, feel free. But Katie, can you talk a little bit about how you took care of this and how you keep track of everything?
So Sola made it really easy for us. They did give us like a welcome packet. It was a binder with all the paperwork that we needed. They basically had a checklist. So if the place that you're going independent doesn't have this checklist, that's okay. You can create your own. Definitely check with your state, since it is different state by state, and figure out what you need. Here in Savannah and in Georgia, we do, you need your salon license as well as your own cosmetology license. You also need your business tax receipt displayed as well. Sola does have a copy of the rules and regulations that you do need displayed in your salon in the break room. So they do have that for you taken care of already, which is amazing, as well as your federal employer identification number. So again, this is something that Sola put together for me, which made it really, really easy. They also had the address and everything in it to where I needed to send everything. So I was very lucky that the place that I decided to send a lease at made it very easy for me. It took about 3 weeks for my license to get in, and at that time I was able to start decorating. I couldn't see any clients in my space just yet, but that gave me plenty of time to plan. And Gloss Genius was also in my startup packet. So I was able to sign up with Gloss Genius immediately and start looking into those features and played around with that from the beginning as well.
That's awesome that they were able to help you through with just like a checklist of everything.
It made it so easy. And it made me, all that stress, all that stuff that I was worried about, that made it really scary to think about starting. It felt like I had everything that I needed to move forward. So it made it a lot less scary feeling prepared.
Yeah. So would you suggest to people to maybe look at like more of a franchise salon suite to go to versus maybe like starting from your home, since they provide all of these tools with helping you get all set up?
I do feel like it is a personal choice. I know some people that are lucky enough to kind of have like a salon setting, like the separate entrance and everything in their home. For me, again, I think everything is just a personal choice. For me personally, I like the separation of having like a workspace to go to. So having a separate building that's not my home for me helps me get ready in the morning, helps me kind of separate like downtime with work time. But I do feel like depending on your lifestyle, that's what you're going to go on. I know that plenty of people, if you've got kids and things like that, you might choose a different setting. But I think the best thing for me about the salon suite style was the independence that you get from that,
Right.
and the flexibility as well.
Awesome. So speaking of opening your salon, we got a lot of questions about startup costs. How much were your startup costs? Maybe if you just want to give like an estimate so people have an idea. And how did you plan for these costs?
So I'm lucky enough that I feel like my mom was there with me whenever I signed. I was very, very nervous about the expenses kind of starting up. I needed, a deposit to put down at Sola. So my mom was my investor, and she invested in me because she believed in me so much and helped give me that deposit. Trust me, I pay her back every day. I do her hair on Sundays, and I don't do anything on Sundays. But I have also paid her back financially as well, considering my business was so successful the first year open, surprisingly. I think to us both. But it was definitely a risk that she was willing to take for me. So, definitely for me kind of switching, it was kind of a situation that I was thrown into. So I do wish that I had a little bit more time to kind of plan. So for those of you that do have that opportunity to kind of plan a little bit, make sure that you are saving for those costs. When I signed with Sola, they did give us, in our sign up bonus, some money to spend towards retail, kind of some, when you talk to your suppliers for Cosmo Salon Centric, they're going to have some startup deals typically whenever you're thinking about purchasing like a color bundle and things like that. That can definitely help keep your expenses low. I definitely think as far as overhead costs in the salon, that's a great thing about going independent is that you're not buying for a huge space. You are buying for you. So you got to think about your clientele. For me, it didn't make any sense to buy permanent hair color levels 1 through 10, considering I don't do a lot of permanent color and I definitely don't have any level 1 permanent coverage in my chair. So that already helps keep my overhead low. I'm mostly just buying supplies that I feel like I'm going to use all the time. Now, when it comes to those things that I don't typically do, like fashion colors, that's something where, an online consultation can really come in handy. So if a client is thinking about doing something like that, being prepared ahead of time so you can go ahead and plan that into your overhead costs can really help.
So
Hey,
what are those expenses exactly? You have to think about rent, product, retail, decor. Is there anything else you would add on to that list?
Oh gosh, I mean, just the cost for your licenses, and then if you open up your own business bank account, you're going to have some money to put into that bank account to first open up. Things like Gloss Genius, I was lucky enough to get the trial period, so that again was another expense that was written off for a little bit for me whenever I was getting started. So that was really amazing. But there were going to be quite a few startup costs whenever you first get open, and that can seem really intimidating. So go ahead and having that savings or having people previous clientele or family and friends that will invest in your dream is really helpful as well. Decorating was really exciting. You can definitely get a little bit crazy with that. So I definitely recommend waiting until you're in your space and working in your space. It's shocking how much stuff moves around depending on what you need in your space. But the nice thing about going independent and being in those personalized rooms is that it does really help keep your overhead low again, because you're not having to purchase too much. It is a smaller setting than previously. So you're going to want to think about what's already given to you in that space if you choose to go independent in a place like Sola, where they already supply, your mirrors and your cabinets and your chairs and your shampoo bowls. So things like that are already taken care of versus if you are having to build out a space.
Perfect.
I'd also add in, hey guys, it's Liz. From some stylists that I've spoken to who've gone independent, when you're trying to figure out your startup costs, just think really, really simple and say, okay, write it down. How much do my licenses cost? What's my down payment on my solo, wherever I'm going? What's my weekly or monthly rent? And then say, okay, let's say I only have 2 customers and 2 customers a week. Can I cover those costs? And then say, okay, let's say I have 4 customers and then 10 customers, and figure out how many customers do you need to really make sure that you're ready to go off on your own, and just trying to be as simple as possible.
Absolutely. My first 2 years, I decided to choose a little bit of a smaller room, but I still chose to have a window room just to see how things would go for my first 2 years, because I really wasn't sure. Again, that kind of fear whenever you're first going out on your own, making sure that I was keeping my overhead costs low. I knew that I had the ability to expand in the future if things went well, and that's exactly what I did. So after my 2 years, my 2-year lease was up. Business was going great and it was time to expand. So I was able to do that later. But when you're first kind of going out on your own, keeping things simple, it's okay to kind of dip your toes in.
That's really, really great advice. My next question, actually, Katie Ann asked, she said, what do you use to track and file your revenue? And I also was going to ask about expenses.
So Gloss Genius does a lot with reporting. That has really helped me a lot. You can track everything as far as individual clients. You're going to be able to track your service totals, what you're bringing in retail if you choose to do retail, what you're bringing in tax wise. As far as gratuity, they just have everything just labeled out for you, easy and ready to go with reports that you can also hand over to your accountant. I do also use QuickBooks Online, but those they go hand in hand for me. I use them for different things. I do feel like Gloss Genius is the one that I use to break down. Most of my clients do pay with card, but there's an option for cash as well. So it really helps keep everything organized for you.
Perfect. I love how organized this is, and all the reports that you can get. How do you find this helpful for tax season?
For tax season, again, I think it depends on in your state and how you're just choosing to pay. If you're choosing to be on payroll, things like that. I personally pay my taxes annually. So at the end of the year, I'm able to go to Gloss Genius, go to my reports, and actually create those PDFs to send over to my accountant to keep track of everything. So as you can see on there, it's going to keep track of all of your retail, your inventory, your expenses, your sales, everything like that. So having all those reports broken down, ready to hand over, it makes it really easy. It just keeps it organized for you. Again, I have done the harder route going, kind of trying to keep track of it yourself. Pen and paper, or creating like a list. This is going to be a lot easier and a time saver.
Yeah, I was going to ask, were you much of a numbers or analytics person before you started, or before you became independent?
That was the fun part about my business degree. Those accounting classes, those are really hard. I have to give it to CPAs. That is a tough job. So definitely more of the creative side, going into the marketing aspect of things was more of my take. So having something that keeps those numbers simple for me, I definitely think that it's on my mind. I'm definitely very aware of it. I stay on top of my numbers, but having something to make it a little simpler for me helps.
That's awesome. Now,
also the fact, I was going to add one thing, how you can set recurring expenses. So it's not like every single month you have to like go back in and put your rent in. Like you really have the time to focus on your artistry and not just, the mundane submitting receipts.
Oh, absolutely. That definitely helps. Because, that rent, depending on where you're at and how it's going to be taken out of your account, our rent is taken out weekly. So you already know what that's going to be every single week. So that really does help keep track of everything, as well as if you do have any subscriptions and things like that for your business, Gloss Genius or Lightroom, anything like that that's going to be reoccurring coming out, add that in there.
Right. It's nice to have everything on autopilot. Speaking of having things on autopilot, let's talk about your branding and marketing and how you do your online booking. I have to say, Katie, I love your branding. It's so warm and you can literally feel the sun beaming on you looking at it, and it makes me want to go blonde. How did you develop your brand, and how did you think about choosing your niche?
I think you would look great with a little bit of balayage in your hair, to be honest. Everybody looks great a little bit sun-kissed. I definitely, being a blonde myself, I was always fascinated with the blonding process. When I went into school, I feel like the industry was really changing. That's when balayage became big, and it wasn't really being taught in my curriculum. So it's something that I started YouTubing with artists like Guy Tang and some of my idols. So I really started focusing in while I was in school on what I was interested in, what brought me joy. Not that I didn't do other things. I feel like I definitely got my hands on a little bit of everything. There was just certain things that didn't make me happy, like doing perms and things like that. That just isn't for me. Whereas painting hair, balayaging, foils, and I do absolutely have redheads and brunette clients, like pink hair clients, everything. But kind of honing in on my niche clientele and thinking about who I wanted to spend. I mean, you're going to be spending a lot of time with these people. So thinking about who you wanted to spend your time with. When I was in school, I was lucky enough to have a good following from my friends and family members and things like that in my area when I was up in Atlanta. So a lot of my clients were people my age coming in that wanted blonde and balayage that was on trend. So kind of starting off with that, starting taking pictures and starting my branding. I built a website whenever I was in school, Squarespace. I created a logo off of Typic, an app on my phone. So I went ahead and really thought about the future that I wanted to go outside of school whenever I graduated. Um, and I definitely recommend that for everybody. Create your own brand, create your own hair Instagram, even if you are in a traditional setting. You want to have as many ways for your clients to be able to see your work and interact with you as possible. So having a website, having, now a website off Gloss Genius, being on Google, on Yelp, as many platforms as possible, just to get your name out there. I highly recommend that as well. And then as far as my branding has changed a lot. I feel like my go-to is, of course, Instagram. I feel like that's going to be my target market of clientele. So again, you've really got to figure out who you want in your chair. Are your clients on Facebook more? Are they going to be on Instagram more? Are they going to be looking for a salon on Google? Are they going to be looking for a salon on Yelp? So you really want to make sure that you're advertising who you feel like is going to be sitting in your chair. So the majority of my clients do come from Instagram. So that makes it really easy. It's very visual, and it's something that's kind of a way to constantly, be on their mind, constantly reminding every time you post a picture, every time that you're posting stories. That's a great way to interact with your clients and to get booking. So Gloss Genius has a lot of great features. So they've got a lot of templates and things like that. So when I was first starting out, branding, things like that, making sure that you're posting on Instagram if you have openings, creating a hair hashtag. Goodness, like the list could just go on.
We got a question in actually from Leslie. She asked, how do you provide a luxury experience for your clients?
So I feel like the luxury experience, should start from the moment they book an appointment with you. So making sure that your clients kind of have a stress-free booking experience. They're getting those reminders, they're getting those confirmations. One thing that I love about Gloss Genius is that it's front desk for me. I used to have to call, and I don't know about you guys, but I get a lot of anxiety whenever my phone rings and just always send it straight to voicemail. I feel like that was a lot of what was happening when I was calling and for those reminders. So now anxiety-free texting and email reminders and confirmations for your clients, I feel like it's going to be a luxury to them, making it very easy to keep track of their appointments versus having that anxiety-driven phone call and voicemail not to listen to. And then if you're unable to make your appointment, having to make sure that you call back in business hours, you are now able to adjust that appointment as long as you're, for me, in that proper time window of 72 hours. So
I love your booking site here. Your
what
brand,
is it? I'm so sorry.
I love your booking site that's playing here.
Thank you.
Your brand is definitely infused throughout the entire site.
It is, yes. So having that feature on there has been really helpful whenever I was first starting out, getting clients, having that online booking feature. I was getting clients that I didn't even realize were following me or knew about me, and they were using Gloss Genius to book. So that was absolutely amazing.
Katie,
What was
and then
the,
keeping that luxury from like the online. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Katie. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, keeping that luxury going from the online booking into the studio appointment. I offer beverages in the salon as far as like waters and sodas, things like that. I do feel like being in the smaller space, being one-on-one, I choose not to double book. So my clients do feel like they are getting a luxury appointment, being one-on-one with me in a room. It's also very private. So we can have very personal conversations and kind of close those doors if need be. Definitely very relaxing during the shampoo process, very quiet in there. So I feel like the whole experience from start to finish feels like a luxury for clients, as well as the checkout process, which is really easy as well.
Perfect. I love how easy this is. And I also loved how they don't need to create an account or remember a password to book with you. What
Absolutely.
has your client's response been with booking with you online?
I absolutely love the online booking feature. For me, it's something that I feel like I when I was first starting out, I used all the time. Now that I've gotten like a lot busier, I kind of have times that I can kind of choose to turn off and on that feature if I feel like I've gotten a little bit too busy. So clients love um, just how simple it is for them to log on. They typically already know what they want to book, but if they don't, having pictures and descriptions definitely helps. So having that visual display for them to look through is absolutely wonderful. So
Katie, hey, it's Liz. So I'm sure a lot of people here are really intimidated by a website. Like, this is a beautiful site. It's hard to set it up. Can you talk about actually how it's set up through Glossiness and how you don't, it's not like you're building a Squarespace, you're not dragging and dropping, but you're literally just filling in the like boxes and it's populating the site for you.
absolutely, because I've made both. So making that Squarespace is extremely intimidating. I was on there today and it can be, a little frustrating to get organized. So with Gloss Genius, it does make it a lot easier. So they already have like the website template created for you. Instead of you having to customize all of like those small little details that can kind of be a little frustrating, like where to put a button, they have put that button there for you. You're kind of filling in all the personalized details, like what's going to make that website feel like you. So by adding in that picture that they see as soon as they log in, that's actually a picture of me that I set my camera on self timer and used as my Gloss Genius login. So get creative. It can definitely be a picture of you and your space. It can be a picture of your clientele. It can be a picture of the beach, anything that you feel like is going to represent your brand and the vibe that you want to get across. And then having your menu online as well makes it really easy. They just kind of have those icon features in there for you to upload those pictures. So I definitely recommend, again, take picture of your work, take a lot of pride in your work and take pictures. And that's going to make it a lot easier for clients to be able to book with you because they're going to be able to visually see what you have to offer. So put those pictures in there and add those descriptions as well.
Yeah, and I love how this is able to showcase all of your work. And your online booking site is essentially their first impression of you, which is why it's so important for you to be able to feature your work. Moving on to growing your clientele, I feel like this would be my next biggest fear of going independent. Would anyone even come to see me? So let's talk about how you grew your clientele and what it was like transitioning from a traditional salon.
It is terrifying. I think anybody that's done it can relate. It's really scary deciding to go on your own. And like you said, is anybody going to follow me? Am I completely crazy? Are my books going to be filled? I had all of those thoughts as well. All of that is fear. I feel like you do have to believe in yourself and believe in your clients and that people want to come see you and they want to come get their services done. There's so many people out there to go and get their hair done by, but there's also so many clients that want to get their hair done. Or, even if that's not the service that you're providing, you're doing lashes, things like that. There's so many people that want those services. So even though there is, a lot of people providing them, there's only one you. And so you are somebody special, and going out on your own and having clients come to you is going to come naturally, and you're going to retain those that kind of fit you and your brand the best. Again, I do believe that it's kind of a relationship that you do build with them. So you will find your people. Again, social media for me was like the biggest way to kind of put that out there. It is really scary kind of being on the other side of the camera, but put out pictures of you and your face. People want to see who's providing the service. Put out pictures of work that you want to do. So whenever you're putting out stuff of things that you're proud of and that you want, you're going to get people that are interested in those things as well. So making sure that you're using, geotags and hashtags, things that are going to hit your target market and target audience to bring people in, just to bring more people to you that are going to be like-minded individuals. So that's all going to help you bring in like your kind of target client as soon as you identify who they are.
That's really good advice. And by the way, you guys, I don't know if you noticed, all the photos that you see are all Katie's work and her clients. I was telling her they're so hip and take the best pictures. I feel like that's like a hairstylist dream. It's when
They
you
are the
take
best.
really good photos of.
I do tell them, on the way out, there's some days where unfortunately the lighting's really bad. If it's a stormy day, if I'm just, my next client's already on the way in and I just don't have the time, I'll tell them, please take a selfie. I want to see it. Tag me, send it to me. If I see a client of mine post like a gorgeous picture, like my client Jenna did, I might DM them and say, hey, can I please use this on my page? They're always flattered, and they usually do not mind at all. So it really helps. And they're just like amazing Instagram bloggers. Like they inspire me. Like I need to learn some selfie taking skills like they do. So get your client to take selfies of your work.
Yes, that's awesome. A question came in from Emily Brown, and she asked, how many clients do you need to start a successful studio?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. It's hard to put, I feel like, a number on it. I am a native here to Savannah. So again, when you're talking about that marketing and kind of, if you've got the time to plan ahead, you are going to kind of putting out feelers there with your clients and things like that. So if you're in a traditional setting, you're going to be transitioning to your new one by posting online and kind of letting your clients know where you're going. You're going to kind of start to see how many clients are going to follow you. So for me, having the Boss Genius website, the booking website, it was really easy because even though I wasn't able to take clients in my salon for the first 3 weeks waiting for my license to come in, I was able to go ahead and start booking appointments for when I was able to open up my doors. So it did help me go ahead and kind of see how many people I was going to have in my chair. When I first opened, it was one of those things that could be like a little hit or miss. Like the beginning of the week, I would have 5 appointments on my book, but then Monday would roll around and those spots just started filling in. So having your clients be able to book whenever they want to, I would have clients that would book an appointment online at like 12 o'clock at night, just at their convenience. So I'd wake up the next morning and have a spot filled. So that was absolutely amazing. Boss Genius does allow you to kind of edit those settings. So of course, if you don't want clients to be able to book within 24, 48 hours, anything like that, then you can absolutely restrict that. So you're not waking up and having a client on your books at 9 a.m. that you didn't know was going to be booking, because I know that can be terrifying as well.
So do you find that you've
but I do feel like, and it was,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, oh no, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I was just asking, do you find that you get a lot of clients from Instagram?
I do. I do accept DMs, because I feel like that's where clients are really seeing a lot of my work. So I do get a lot of clients from Instagram, but also word of mouth. So I feel like clients that are word of mouth on Instagram, again, if they're already my client, then their friends are probably going to be people that I'm going to enjoy spending time with as well. So those would probably be my 2 major ways of getting clients.
Awesome. And how have these templates been helpful for you?
Oh, those templates have been absolutely amazing. So having that book now feature available on your website, again, just more ways for clients to be able to reach out to you and to see your website is going to be really, really easy. Anytime that whenever I was first starting out, having those gaps in my week, a lot of clients or people when I was first starting out would actually DM me and say, how did you fill your books? And posting when he's going, clients might think, oh, she's too busy, she doesn't have any time. You post that opening, you don't know what their work schedule is like. That could be their one day off. They might get a sitter just for this appointment. So by posting your book me, book now, make this appointment, you're kind of giving them, again, that constant reminder, kind of constantly being in their ear, that they can get an appointment with you and that it is possible. So when I was first starting out, having that feature to let people know when I had availability filled those gaps. Now that I'm booked out for quite a while, you still have things happen. Obviously, realized that in the past few months that things happen. So you need to be a little bit flexible with your clients when you can be. So having that, again, that feature now that I am really, really booked, it helps fill up those last minute cancellations that you might have. So I do try to keep a cancellation list here or there. But I feel like for me, that got really sticky, keeping a cancellation list. So I kind of stopped doing that after a while, after about the 5th person down the list that you try to offer the appointment to. And they were like, oh, that time doesn't work for me. For me, it was just a lot easier to do it first come, first serve and post it and let people know.
Katie, we got a couple of questions when people registered about there's some people who are in traditional commission style salons that have really strict rules about how you can't solicit clients and bring them over to you. What advice would you give to someone who's in that situation, who doesn't really know how they can, get new clients when they can't really solicit the ones that they've been doing their hair for years?
So I know this is such a controversial topic. Clients are not a salon to keep. People are allowed to go wherever they want to go. They are not owned by anybody. Clients are not legally bound to a salon. So if your client is loyal to you, then it just makes sense that they would want to follow you where you are now going. If they do choose to stay at that salon, that's perfectly okay. That just means they're not for you. But as far as, having those rules about, not being able to take your client lists, not be able to take those emails, not be able to take those phone numbers, not even be able to mention where you're going. That's another reason why it's good to kind of go ahead and be marketing yourself. So kind of go ahead and be getting in contact with your clients. It's a great way to be like, hey, follow my hair page, tag me on Instagram. I want to see your selfies. So all those clients are now able to be in contact with you in a professional way by following your hair, page on Instagram or whatever it may be, versus having your personal phone number, which can be very tricky. You want to kind of set those boundaries from the get. So having them contact you on a professional setting, like your hair Instagram page, not your personal Instagram page, that's going to go ahead and be a great platform to let your clients know where you're going without having to solicit them while in the salon setting.
Right. So other than Instagram, how do you stay connected with clients and reach out to them?
So text campaigns, email campaigns, all of those things are going to be a great way to stay in contact with your clients. So I make sure that with Gloss Genius, whenever a client is being first added to my system, they have to add their phone number and email. So something that, again, you probably didn't have before in a traditional salon setting, because that was like in your salon's booking system. This is all now information for you and for you to use. So make sure that you are utilizing those text campaigns, those email campaigns. You were able to text or email clients and let them know whenever you have deals going on. One thing that I love is the birthday feature. So being able to kind of like send out a little gift to your clients on their birthday. So even getting information like that from them is going to be a great way to stay in touch with your clients and let them know that you're thinking about them.
Awesome. And the last thing we'll go over that a lot of you asked about is payment processing. So Katie, can you share how you do checkout with your clients and how much you save with what you're using now?
So again, Gloss Genius has been with me from the start. So the moment that I went independent, I had this app downloaded on my phone. And then I quickly got an iPad so that my text messages wouldn't be popping up on my screen as during their checkout process. So I did choose to get an iPad. Gloss Genius makes it really easy. You don't have to have, an extra piece of equipment. Currently, they have it to where you can scan a picture of their card or either input it in manually. Clients think that's really cool. You also have different features as far as card processing fees. So I feel like any kind of software that you're using is going to have different processing fees. With Gloss, you have the option to either take that fee, split that fee with your guests, or to have them pay that fee. I do have my clients pay that fee. There's a sign posted in a frame. on the in the salon for them to see, but in the checkout process, I make sure again that everything is super transparent. So when we're doing our consultation in the beginning of the service, we're going to be going over prices of our services, and we're going to be talking about retail and kind of adding in that price as well. So it's very easy for you to be transparent, breaks it down actually in a parenthesis for you to see what's going to be your service, tax, tip, everything like that. So I love how easy that is and how easy it is to be transparent with your guest and your coming in your chair. And then after that, it's going to have the feature to either send out a text or email receipt and then to book their next appointment. So everything during the checkout process is completely seamless. And you're getting all those checklists pretty much again, step by step of what you need to do to finish out the appointment.
And it makes you look so professional to just have a seamless POS system, and especially with being able to send receipts. I feel like, unfortunately, when you go independent or when you're on your own, you'll have some clients who will kind of like question your pricing. So having this just makes them not do that. And we actually got a question from Shane about pricing. So how did you think about pricing, and how do you know if you're charging enough?
So when I first went independent, I based my pricing off of the previous salon that I was at. So I didn't want to switch things up too much from that for my clients. But again, this is your own business. This isn't that business. So going forward into that, you are allowed to make changes that are going to fit your business. Those changes as far as price increases, those are going to take into consideration the amount of hours and money that you've spent towards your education, the amount of hours and money that you've spent towards providing a luxury service. You also want to be competitive. So if you're constantly upping your game and providing a better service, you want to make sure that you're charging your worth. And you also want to make sure that you're charging competitively. So if someone is doing the same work that you're doing in your area, and they're charging a lot more, why can't you? So make sure that you're charging your worth. And as far as communicating that with clients, again, I think figuring out what works best for you. For me, I'm a talker, so I am going to talk to my clients about those price changes. You do have the Gloss Genius website again to visually display your menu. So my pricing is very easy. If you're ever curious about it, you can go to the website and see all of my pricing. But that is something that clients are, of course, going to be asking about during that initial kind of like booking period. So again, I think just being transparent with them, giving them a range even, because things can really change once they're in person and you're sitting down, and they could even change their mind from that person they booked that appointment for them to get into your chair, what they want. So definitely giving them a price range of what it could be. So again, there's no sticker shock at the end of that appointment.
Katie, I think you bring up a great point, and you brought up a bunch about just being transparent, and especially when you're starting out, you're building up your clientele. You don't want to get in a situation where someone was misled, and whether it's about the processing fee or whatever your prices are. And I think that's like one of the biggest takeaways for me, at least in going independent. Like, the customer is everything, and you need to build up these relationships and just be as transparent as possible up front, so that they are happy and will come back and refer their friends. And that's really the way to build your business.
Absolutely. And I think, you learn from experience. So I